Everybody, this is GreyMan here. How is everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well. So in today's video, basically we're going to play a little bit off of my video that I did on Wednesday, which was the my top 10 canned food list. I got a lot of comments down there that were bringing up other types of foods and stuff like that. So I've decided to kind of like put together the best survival foods for your emergency food pantry. I'm going to try to break up the monotony a little bit about this one. I'm going to try to throw in some stock footage and whatnot, just so you ain't got to stare at this face the entire video. So anyways, we're going to kind of break it down a little bit. And, this is going to be a breakdown of what kind of variety of foods and types of foods that you should have in your prepper pantry. And because you kind of want to have a well-rounded diet in, day-to-day life as well as emergency situations. Hopefully that makes sense to you folks out there, because you want to consume the most nutritious meals that you possibly can be, even especially if you don't have the option to go to a grocery store, that you have to depend on the food that you have stocked in your home or in your pantry per se, right? And some people have different names for it. They call it the prepper pantry, emergency preparedness pantry, survival pantry, and so on and so forth. We're going to kind of incorporate into this kind of like breakdown. We're going to talk about proteins. We're going to talk about dairy, meats, produce, and fruits and vegetables, drinks, and so on and so forth. So I think it should be packed full of a lot of good information. And as always, I want to hear your feedback down in the comments below. So I always appreciate that. We had a really good conversation going in the comment section. A lot of folks were talking with each other as well as myself on the video that I did Wednesday. And if anything, I'll pop up that video right here if you haven't seen that yet, so that you can check that out. All right, so moving on. So there's all different types of things that people put in their pantries. I mean, you have your canned goods like we have discussed. People also kind of mix in there their canning supplies, like canning, not canned goods, but like, jarred cans, like ball cans or ball jars. I don't want to say jarring, but you kind of get where I'm going with that one. You got your dehydrated foods, your freeze-dried foods, your powdered foods, and so on and so forth, your vacuum seals, and the list goes on and on. And we're going to dive into that a bit. So the best thing I can say is to keep a variety of foods with the highest possible nutritional value that you can get from some of these foods. So kind of do your research in the aspect of what kind of vegetables, what kind of fruits, meats, and all the different things that you may need to substantiate yourself with, as well as your family. And of course, you want to always think about the elderly. You want to think about your children. You want to kind of think about the whole, whoever that you have to provide for. All right, so let's jump into this, folks. And like I said, this is not an all-inclusive list, but this is a great list to work off of, and hopefully you kind of get that. And if you do get, like, as I always like to say, if you do get any value at all, if something sparks your interest or at least gets that, momentum going in you or someone that you may know, because I like folks to share these types of videos, is please give that video a thumbs up or this video a thumbs up. I truly appreciate that. All right, enough rambling, Gray. Let's kind of get into this. All right, so first we're going to start off with proteins. Now, proteins, we can start off with stuff like canned fish, and what I mean by that is tuna, salmon, I guess Lady Gray corrected me and said salmon, sardines, and herring. Those are the types of canned fish that you can pick up. You can also dive into nuts. Nuts are like, let's say, peanuts. Peanuts are protein packed. And this is our protein section, just to kind of elaborate on that. Almonds, cashews, pine nuts, walnuts, just to name a few. And then to follow up with that, we're going to kind of dive into beans. Beans like your chickpeas, your kidney beans, your black beans, pinto beans, navy beans, and of course the list continues with that as well. These are just kind of examples to kind of give you an idea of where I'm going with these type of products. Now we're going to jump into the canned meat section. Evidently, I didn't even know that. I guess they have Spam bacon and Spam turkeys and all kinds of other stuff. I've never looked into it and that far enough. I just grab what I need, and there's your generic Spam. Some people say Spam is expensive. Enough with the Spam, Gray. But I got a lot of comments on the Spam, which I thought was pretty funny. All right, so moving on to your canned meats. So you have your canned hams, of course. You have your chilies. You also have like different types of meats that you can pick up that are either canned, or if you jar or can your own meats, like some people like, who are into canning and have the know-how and understanding of canning, of course, they do it that way versus buying some of the canned goods. But I always say supplement your canning with canned goods. And also, something I want to share with you is freeze-dried meats. And the reason I say that is because you just never know what you may run out of, and if you need something with the longest possible shelf life that you can possibly get out of a food, then you're going to move over to the freeze-dried food section. Now, most of us are not in the position to buy or own a freeze dryer, which, that would be a great thing for me to get one day, but it's a great investment because it's a lot cheaper than buying, let's say Nutrient Survival, Augustin's Farms, Ready Wise, Mountain House, and the list goes on and on. But that just to kind of give you an idea, and I put some stuff here that I have stocked up. Let me move that one and kind of show you this one here that I have. And this is what I come across here. Let me flip this around. Of course, I'm making a bunch of noise, but as you can see here, you have your ground beef here. This is an XL can by Mountain House. It's a freeze-dried ground beef, and it's just nice to have something additional to, let's say, if you can your own, meats and whatnot, or if you can your own chickens. I mean, there's of course freeze-dried chicken. There's all kinds of freeze-dried meats, canned meats, as well as people who can their own foods. And hopefully I'm differentiating between the two. Versus, the canning and the canned. I don't know. I guess, how do I say, the non-perishable cans versus folks that can with a jarring method where you have your ball jars and your lids. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And one other thing that I want to add that you can get a lot of protein out of is peanut butter. Now, logistically speaking, you want to get commercial grade peanut butter. I know that sounds, some people like, no, I like the most natural stuff that I can possibly get. Well, the oils in that peanut butter and the other ingredients in all natural, well, I guess the absence of certain ingredients in natural peanut butters don't give it the sustainability that commercial peanut butter does. Now, you can do a couple of different options. You can get regular peanut butter, commercial grade, like your Jiffy and your Peter Pan and all that stuff like that. And it can last anywhere from up to 6 to 24 months on the shelf, and with proper rotation, at least on a yearly basis. I mean, I don't know the size of the peanut butter that you're getting, but technically you can get anywhere from 6 to 24 months. Everywhere I looked, in every research page and every prepper page and every food page that I could find, it ranged a lot. But so it's basically from 6 months to 24 months. So let's say minimum of a year or so. Some of you guys may have experimented with that more than others. Me, I have a constant rotation of certain things that we consume on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So there's always rotation, almost like a 90-day rotation in the way I run my pantry. Now I do have my long-term storage. For instance, let's say another one. Here's my, I'm sorry, I guess I'm not trying to promote Augustin's Farm, but they do have a lot of ingredient-based stuff. And here's their peanut butter powder. That comes in very handy with a long shelf life. I know this one says it's a shelf life up to 5 years. So going beyond your 6 to 24 months for your commercial grade peanut butter, you can kind of dive into, let's say, the freeze-dried peanut butter, which has, roughly a shelf life of 5 years, possibly longer. I don't know. I guess that one is roughly a little over 2 years old. So maybe I'll wait till about maybe 4.5 years and open up that can live on the air or on a video and kind of show you if it's still good or not. I mean, that's the only way we can really kind of prove what they have on the label is factual. All right, and also, one thing I wanted to add to this, because it's a great snack that I like personally, and of course we just passed October, we're in November, which is pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are packed full of nutrients. I love to snack on pumpkin seeds, and especially the roasted ones. Whenever we, either we harvest our pumpkins that we have in our garden, and I should have showed them. We only got 3 of them this year because we had a huge bug problem. But anyways, if you buy pumpkins from the grocer and you're doing your Halloween carving pumpkin, most people take the guts and don't do nothing with it. We like to make pies and do what we can with it, and also take out the seeds to try to grow, because most of them are very growable, and we save and dry them out. But also we roast, pumpkin seeds and use them as snacks as well. Sometimes we'll add a little bit of spice to it. Sometimes we'll make it a little bit sweeter and sprinkle cinnamon on it. We like to experiment with it, have fun with it. Whenever you're doing anything for long-term food storage or snacks, you should have a little bit of fun with it. Taste it, try it out, and experiment with it like it's a science project. So moving on to number 2. I know number 1 was a very long one, but it detailed a lot of information because proteins is very huge and very important, and the nutrients associated with that. Now we're going to move into dairy. Dairy, man, don't we like to drink a nice ice cold glass of milk, or have some really good cheese? I know some people I guess can't tolerate dairy, but I myself can. I love milk and cheese, and other products associated with the dairy family. And so let's dive into that. So we have a couple options when it comes to dairy, because most dairy is refrigerated, and if the power goes out, you're in a situation where, unless you have a generator or you have backup power supplies or ways to keep that milk or cheese or yogurts or whatever that you happen to have cold, it's going to spoil relatively quickly. So that being said, we have to look beyond that option. And now we can look at, for cheese, you can do, I guess this is going to get a bit redundant, but you can do, for cheese, you can do canned cheese. There's lots of different canned cheese. I'm pretty sure you've seen nacho cheese, and all the different types of spray cheeses and all the other types of, different liquid cheeses that they use for soups and whatnot. So that's the canned option. And then, of course, again, we have, the freeze-dried option, be it, Colby cheese. This is the, the choice that I picked. And, you have that freeze-dried option for cheese as well. Now, that being said, with milk, you have several different options there as well. So you can look at evaporated milk, which was brought to my attention by a lot of folks when I did the canned good video. Also, I mentioned sweetened condensed milk, which can be used for baking or just adding a little sweetener to your coffee. So then you have those types of milks. And then what everybody should have, which I think everybody should have, to be honest with you, is, I just picked this up the other day. I think it was pennies on the dollar, to be honest with you. It's on sale. This is the instant non-fat dry milk, fortified with vitamin D and A, or A and D or whatnot. I'm just trying to read off the label here. But I got this at a very good price, and the shelf life of this milk is will last 10 times as longer than milk in the refrigerator, if you kind of get where I'm going with that. So that is an option as well. And moving forward with that, let's dive into butter. We all love butter, and some butter is better adapted to temperatures and whatnot, but butter will spoil after a long period of time set outside the refrigerator, unless you have the magical clarified butter, which is ghee, G-H-E-E. A lot of you folks are familiar with that. It's aka clarified butter, and it's basically created by skimming the milk solids out of melted butter. Very easy to do yourself. There's a lot of videos out there. You can check Alaska Prepper out. He has one out there as well. And I'm pretty sure there's some homestead channels out there that have done the same thing to kind of show you how to make clarified butter on the cheap versus buying it like I did a couple of times, because I'm always intrigued by what I see online and I like to experiment with things. But ghee has a very long shelf life. Some people, there's speculation, and there, of course, there's everybody has their opinion about certain things. Some people say, oh, well, I could get a year or two out of it. Some people say I can get indefinite out of it. You be the judge. You experiment with it, and just do it the safest way possible. But that being said, so there you have your milk, you have your cheese, and you have your butter. Those are three great dairy products that you can have for long-term food storage to add to your prepper pantry if you already don't. Sorry, I thought I might have had something in my teeth. Anyways, I don't know. Weird things happen when I'm doing videos, and I'm not one to really, cut and edit too much, but we're playing around with it, and we're just going to run with it. So moving on to number 3, and you folks know I love my list, but we're going to dive into fruits and vegetables. Fruits, man, who doesn't love fruits? Fruits has all kinds of vitamin C's and various nutrients in them. Of course, your vegetables have, fiber and nutrients in them. So you need a variety of fruits and vegetables to add to your thing. Now, the best way I can say to do this, other than having a garden and harvesting your fruits and vegetables from there, is to have dried fruits and vegetables, using a dehydrator. You have Presco's, Nesco's, you have the Excalibur, you have whatever you can afford, whatever you have room for. Dehydrating, I've come to know that it's quite easy and quite simple to do. And it doesn't take much time at all. You can buy, a bag of frozen peas or frozen whatever in the grocery store and practice with that, because most of the time you can get a bag of frozen, let's say green beans, or even some cranberries or whatnot, and you can get them on relatively cheap from the store. Now, also, like I said, I've been dehydrating a lot of peppers as of lately, just because my Thai chili pepper plant, which is kind of a tongue twister in itself, keeps on producing and producing and producing. But anyways, there's a large variety of canned fruits. I mean, you can look at peaches, apples, apricots, prunes, cranberries, raisins, pears, and yes, tomatoes. Tomato is a fruit. Then when you jump into the vegetables, you can have broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, carrots, peas, squash. And then what I want to focus on a little bit for you folks that are into fermented foods, and I really want to focus on cabbage and sauerkraut. And the reason I'm focusing on sauerkraut is I just want to add a little tidbit of information here because I've learned a lot, and Mark from Rolling Homestead is the one that kind of put me onto this. But sauerkraut has a lot of medicinal or healthy effects to the body, everywhere from the digestive system to the immune system, to stress, to brain health, to heart health, to even to stronger bones. You know, you don't have to believe me. You can research this yourself, and you'll come to find out that it's actual factual. I know it's actual factual. Yeah, man, that was a little weird one there. Anyways, I thought that was funny, but that's just my own sense of humor, laughing at myself as I'm talking to a camera. That being said, you should really look into sauerkraut and fermented foods, and specifically that in itself. But I don't know, I just kind of wanted to throw that in there because I found out there's so many health benefits because your gut health is super important to your body and the way it works. And I've been learning and researching into that. There's a lot of information out there with gut health and how it relates to the rest of your body. I know you're getting a little bit more than you bargained for in this video. Anyways, we're going to move on, and we're not going to take too much time on this one. We're going to move on to number 4. And don't worry, folks, there's only 8 of them in here. So 4 of them. We're going to move into number 4, which is pasta and rice. And what I mean by pasta and rice is your dry pastas and your dry rice. Mainly white rice. White rice has the longest shelf life, and most people know that. White rice can last up to 25 years on average. Some people say 30, 25 to 30 years on average. It'll probably outlive some of the rice that I have stockpiled. Will probably outlive me. But you know, if you put them in the food grade buckets with Mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, and you have them in a cool, dark, dry place, and I keep mine under temperature control. So I've got all the components to make that rice last quite some time. It makes a great staple. You can add rice to all different types of food. Rice and beans in general. If you have dry beans, dry rice, kind of, you know, all wrapped up into one, you kind of see where I'm going at, because the beans are going to have your protein and fiber. The rice is going to have your carbs. And then, of course, you can substitute for pasta if you get tired of rice one day and add some of your canned vegetables and chickens and whatnot. But we've kind of went over that in the canned goods video, and I don't want to be too redundant. And kind of, I guess, do overkill. But anyways, they just have, it has a lot longer shelf life than your brown rices, all due to the oils inside brown rices and stuff like that, and it can get rancid a little bit faster. And the main thing with white rice and storage is you got to make sure that you have a pest-free environment, because rats are known to chew through plastic and chew through the Mylar and get in there. So you have to really kind of keep an eye on your stuff. I keep, you know, my buckets dated. I check on them every once in a while. And once in a while means at least every 30 days I'm going into the off-site storage locations and verifying that everything is looking good. You know, I have, you know, a camera set up there as well that I can see from home, just in case there's ever a power outage. I can be notified, and so on and so forth. Lucky the person that owns this facility is a really good friend of mine. And like I said, I don't want to talk about too much about the pastas and rices. Everybody, that's pretty much a common staple in most people's prepper pantries, because of the fact they have such a long shelf life. And like I said, you can kind of use those carbs for energy boost and whatnot, and as a filler food to quell the hunger pains if you're in a situation where you're almost, you know, basically to the point where you're starving. So having something is better than nothing. If all you have is rice, at least it's some sort of food. You have to think about history and the way history played out itself. Some people just survived off bread and water. Some people say, well, it's impossible, Gray. Well, if you look at if you look at history in itself, and the medieval times and all the other times that we've had in our world, people were on the brink of starvation on a consistent basis in the poverty-stricken areas of let's say, the United Kingdom and France and all the other countries around the world. Even to this day, there's people that survive on stuff like just either potatoes or bread and water and something like that, just bare necessities per se. And sometimes I get off track. I do apologize for that. Number 5, and this one's huge. Number 5 is salt and spices. Some people always forget the salts and spices, and salt can come in very handy. And what I mean by salt is because salt, you want to add a little, you know, a little spunk to your rice. You know, you want to just get some flavor. And spices, you know, all different types of spices, be it cayenne pepper or cumin or, you know, adobo, which is something that I like, saffron, and all the different types of spices, cinnamon, you know, and I guess I could go on and list about 100 different spices, but you got to get the point, right? And well, most spices, if you look at the shelf life and you store them properly, you can get a long time out of them. And a lot of us folks use spices on a daily basis when we're cooking. and doing things, normal day-to-day operations per se in the kitchen. So spices actually have a lot of, at least in my pantry, they have a lot of turnaround time. So they get rotated a lot. Sometimes we buy some large ones that we know that we can store for long periods of time, especially like garlic salts and stuff like that, because the salt and the garlic, salt in general can last pretty much for almost an eternity, if not an eternity, but you kind of get where I'm going with that. And that's why also you can use salts to cure meats and stuff like that, but that's another video per se about, different things that you can do for curing meats, like smoking and using the salts and stuff like that, curing and all that stuff like that. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. And I'm trying to keep the videos shorter and shorter so I can try to keep your guys' attention span. Anyways, because I just watched, and I don't want to get into it because I'm going to start going on that whole ramble about YouTube. Anyways, let's move on to number 6, sweeteners. Sweeteners, the good old. I know people are going to say, man, sugar. Sugar is the evil of diabetes. Sugar is the evil of obesity in our country. Yeah, unfortunately, it is. Sugar is a magic drug. Everybody knows that sugar is probably one of the most abused drugs probably in the country, next to caffeine and nicotine. But sugar, in a shift event, sugar pretty much has almost an indefinite shelf life as well if it's kept properly, of course. And you can use other different types of, forms of sweeteners, and we're going to dive into that real quick. But sugar can last you quite some time, and, it's just, it can come in handy for certain things. I would go into more, but that would probably, sugar alcohols and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of what I was going to say before I said it because I don't want to get in trouble. But let me let you guys know what my favorite sweetener is, which I know they have found in Egyptian tombs that have lasted over 3,000 to 5,000 years, which is, yes, honey. Honey is a phenomenal sweetener. I think every prepper in the globe, anybody who's prepping, should have honey in their preps. They should have jars and jars of honey. Get a variation of honeys. There's all different types of honeys out there, but don't forget to add honey. Honey is one of those indefinite food staples that you can have. It has an indefinite shelf life, and of course we've talked about that on the honey video. I think I did a whole video about honey because I'm in love with honey. And I even take a spoonful a day, and there's a lot of health benefits to honey as well. If you guys do some research on there and look up the health benefits of honey, especially if you draw honey from your areas, people use them for, for allergies and stuff like that, but it goes beyond that with the nutrients that are inside honey. And funny, when I researched honey, the main component of honey that I guess makes it more of an antibacterial? Anyways, is the hydrogen peroxide content, which I thought was pretty intriguing. Just, I guess, a little tidbit there. Anyways, we're going to move on from that. We're going to move on to number 7. Number 7, we're almost there, folks, is oils. Now, here's the problem. A lot of folks, I love olive oil. It's one of my favorite oils. Some people use vegetable oil and canola oil. There's all different types of oils. From my research and everything that I've gathered, the oil that you can basically put in your pantry and not forget about, but you can have a long, long shelf life, is extra virgin coconut oil. From the research I've done, its shelf life is roughly 7 to 15 years. 7 to 15 years for coconut oil. I know some of you folks may already have coconut oil. Maybe you guys stock it already in your pantry. If you do, let me know down in the comments and how you enjoy cooking with it. Every oil has a different type of texture and flavor that you can cook with, but extra virgin coconut oil has a shelf life of 7 to 15 years. I thought that was kind of intriguing. A while back when I was doing research on what oils are the best to store, I don't know if you guys do that as well, where you kind of sit there and you kind of research, well, what can I purchase that will last me the longest, which I get more bang for my buck, kind of thing like that. Because you guys know oils with the fats in there can go rancid, and there's a lot of other issues on different types of oils. But oils you need for cooking, you can use, matter of fact, you can use coconut oil for your skin too, which is ironic, but as a lubricant and all kinds of other fun stuff. But in generalized, we're talking about oil for cooking. And like I said, there's a lot of different oils out there. Olive oil, and like I said, I think, what else did I mention? I know I said olive oil. I'm just making sure. I know I'm missing some. There's some other oils out there, peanut oil, and so on and so forth. All right, coming to wrap this up, we're going to dive into number 8, which is drinks. You have to have water. And so water presents its own complicated issues with storage, you know what I mean? Some people have rain collection systems, if you're allowed to in the states that you're in. But also, people stockpile bottled water, which is fine. But, you have to understand that, long-term water storage, if you're using plastic, you have to watch for the BPS and BPAs that can leach into your water, and the last thing you want to do is get sick from that. So if you do have water, water actually does have a shelf life, believe it or not. So you kind of want to recycle water, especially if you're using plastic. And that can be a long, drawn-out issue with the whole water thing. But I myself, I do buy water by the cases, especially during hurricane season. And then as soon as hurricane season, I rotate that and go in there. And I keep my water in a it's very cool. It's very dark. There's no sunlight getting to it because I'm trying to get the best and the longest life out of it. Now, I know there's probably roughly, you can probably get a couple years out of it before you have any issues. But I like to, just to kind of protect my family's health and myself, we rotate it out probably every 6 to 12 months. Depending on the water that we have and the way we have it stored. But you guys can go further into that. There's different types. But what I wanted to add to this is just don't, if you have plenty of water, which is great, but if you're boiling water, if you're getting water from a lake, or you're taking pool water and evaporating the chlorine out of it, whatever that you're doing for water, and I know this is kind of going beyond the whole prepper pantry concept, but in your pantry, to add to the water that you're going to be drinking, you should have stuff like powdered drink mixes. Gatorade drink mixes. They have electrolytes in there. There's like Propel drink mixes. There's breakfast, mixes, protein shakes, orange drinks, Kool-Aids. But the ones I would suggest are the vitamin-based ones. Like where you need to get the electrolytes, like Propel. I have these little things that I keep in my hiking bag, in my go bag, and all around. We have big things of it, but you want to kind of substitute, because you kind of get tired of just drinking straight water, if that makes sense. You kind of get fatigued, like, okay, I'm just drinking water and water and water, and so you kind of want to add in maybe some Gatorade juice drink mix. The powder lasts for a lot longer than any type of liquid would. Usually they're in somewhat like a number 10 can. Also, like I said, the Propel little foil packs that you can get there, and you can dump them in there, and you get your a dose of electrolytes. Or you can add a little bit of salt to your water, however you want to do it. But I figure a little bit of lemon juice and salt, kind of if you want to do it the more affordable way, if you have that option. But if not, if you have the capabilities to go out and buy and stockpile some of those things, like I said, the Gatorade mixes and stuff like that. Now, also, there's a few of us that have habits like myself. I am a caffeine addict. And man, do I love to have a nice warm cup of joe in the morning. Ain't nothing some good old-fashioned coffee. So also, something that you might want to think of is freeze-dried coffee, instant coffee. Those are the easiest to do in case you want to, just get it on the go and make it now and run with it, versus if you don't have the capability to brew coffee. And there's stuff like cowboy coffee and stuff that you can do outside of the realms of just brewing coffee, or if you have one of those fancy things called a Keurig and you don't like that and you don't want to have that option, there's other things you can do with instant coffee. Also, tea. Lots of tea. A lot of people grow chamomile and lemongrass and all different types of other herbs in their garden, and you can use some cheesecloth and make some tea out of that. So stockpile, if you don't have it in your garden, you might want to stockpile some different types of teas. Let's say spearmint teas, chamomile teas, lavender teas. The herbal teas is where I'm kind of going with it. If you need a little bit of caffeine, you can get the green tea, which is not as bad as the black tea, but if you have to have a massive dose of caffeine, you can of course go with the darker and richer teas, some Earl Greys and whatnot. So that kind of wraps up this whole video here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Was I thorough enough? Does that make sense of does that give you enough information to kind of build your pantry and work on it to where you have a well-rounded situation, from proteins to meats to vegetables to fruits to dairy products to drinks to oils and so on and so forth. I wanted to try to encompass everything so that you have if you're in a position and you're struggling to survive, you want to have as much nutrition as possible and as much as a variety as possible. The last thing you want to do is come across food fatigue and be in that situation. Regardless, I know some folks, well, they're going to be starving or they must be, hungry, but you want to try to make the best of it as you possibly can. So that being said, if you got some great information out of this, if you got any value out of this at all, please hit that thumbs up button. I really appreciate that, and look forward to reading your guys' comments when this video airs, I think this afternoon. Truly appreciate you folks as always. This is GreyMan. I'm out. God bless, and have a great day. Thank you.